This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Michael Torsha, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, this is Mike Torsha. Thanks for coming in and viewing this show today. I have a very special guest, is Dan Clark. He's been a dear friend for such a long time, and he's a writer, he's a producer. He has 2 books that are best-selling. He just had Netflix feature his documentary, which was based on his book, Muscles and Mayhem, which you probably have must seen. It's fantastic. But I feel so honored and such a privilege to have such a wonderful person, wonderful inspiration, and I'm sure you're going to recognize him. He was Nitro on the game show called American Gladiator. But we got a lot to share to hopefully give people direction and guidance to not make some of the mistakes that people commonly do in the bodybuilding world and sports world and film business, you know?
Yeah, well, Mike, happy to be here, happy to be sitting across from you. And, I think one of the things that I pride myself on is, being an open book. I don't have secrets. You don't write 2 memoirs, about yourself if you're more concerned on how you come across to people instead of how you can affect and help people. So it's a wide open platform. Feel free to ask me anything, I'll do my best to answer you honestly in a way that maybe there's a few takeaways for people listening.
Well, I'd like to bring up this book that you came out with, which was, I guess, what they did to Netflix.
Yeah, so that's Gladiator, True Story of Roid's Rage Redemption. It was a memoir. I wrote it about 15 years ago for Simon & Schuster. And, for me to be, like an author, I was like, wow, that's impressive. I had started screenwriting when I first moved to L.A. back in, the late 80s when American Gladiator started. I felt like I had this voice in me. And I didn't know how to express it to people in my life, the day-to-day people. I didn't know how to express myself, my emotions, my feelings. So I started to put it down on the page. It felt like a safe place to write. So I started to write screenplays and wrote a bunch, wrote and directed a movie through, Gladiators and all that stuff in that time. And then about maybe 15 years ago, after Gladiators, I just felt like I wanted to tell my story. I didn't want to necessarily tell the American Gladiator story, but I wanted to use that as the platform and the backdrop because I knew it would catch eyeballs. But I wanted to tell a very human story about a young boy who was traumatized when he was younger, who lost his older brother, who died in his arms, when I was 10 and he was 12, and what effect that had on me. And by writing that book, it also allowed me to open the hood of the car, and look inside myself and see, why did I do the things I did? Why was I so enamored with size and strength and power? And it was really an exploration. And through, years of, self-introspection, self-development, personal development, reading, hundreds of books, therapy. I've kind of got a good idea what makes me tick. And, maybe if we can go into that today and we share, it might help, some people listening out there. Because, the whole idea, I'm a man, I'm tough. I need to be big and strong, and I can't express myself. I can't have a vulnerability because that'll mean I'm weak. That type of thinking leads drug use, drug abuse, not just the gear, but also, MDMA, all these different things.
Those party essentials, they call it, right?
Yeah, but even nowadays, ketamine now. There's so many different things are out there, and it's just it's all a slippery slope.
Well, I remember you working out actually in Gold's, but when you'd walk through the door, you'd command attention. You had this incredible physique, the jawline, tapered waist, broad shoulders, but you walked empowered. And I remember seeing, I was like, man, I'm so proud of him, man. It's another guy in the gym. All of a sudden, he's on this incredible show. I didn't consider it a game show. Kind of cheapened it. No, you're an incredible show. American Gladiator. You're Nitro. And I got to tell you something. People were awed by you when you'd walk in the gym. And I could see you felt empowered. And you trained like an animal. And you're always so focused. But you always said hello to people. You always took the kindness to say hello to a young fan and so on. But what I really want to know is, how did you get the role? Was it an audition? Did someone tell you about it? How did that begin, that part of your life?
Well, let me start by saying my father taught me that you treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter if it's a janitor or if you're talking to the president of the United States. And I've met 3 presidents in one night, and I treated them the same. You know, very nice to meet you. How you doing, Mr. Carter? Oh, Mr. Ford, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Oh, President Reagan. What a pleasure. Nice to meet you. I treated them the same as I did the guy who parked the car. You know what I mean? My father taught me that. And, you know, I've always had that idea that people are just people. We do different things, you know, and you respect that humanity in each person if they're a good person, regardless of what they do. So that's step number one. And, you know, American Gladiators. I played football briefly in the NFL. Had this idea, you know, let's go to Hollywood. I wasn't an actor, but there was somebody. There were 2 idols. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who you know, Sly Stallone, who you know. Yeah. They made the dream possible for people who didn't have acting experience, but who believed in themselves, who had a certain type of physicality. They made the dream possible, like, hey, you can go and you can be an action star. So I moved up here after, you know, I got cut from the Los Angeles Rams, not to be a thespian. I came up to be a gosh darn action star. I was going to be like those guys. And that's how I got up here. And when the role or the casting came out for American Gladiators, they didn't know what it was. It was just a show who was looking for athletes who were good in front of the camera. And I was like, that's me. You know, I'd been here like 9 months, Mike, and I couldn't get arrested. You know, I was playing an extra in a spacesuit. You know, I was playing all these, you know, all these different things.
We all went on those auditions. Oh my God, it was quite embarrassing, right?
Well, for me, you know, when I was just happy to be on the set.
Yeah.
I actually moved up here to work on a show called First and 10, an HBO football show with O.J. Simpson.
Oh yeah.
He was the team manager. Shannon, Gene Simmons' wife, Shannon. I can't remember. She was the team owner, and I came up here to be an extra on that TV show, you know, being a football player. And it just, you know, I just had this incredible desire to be seen, you know, to matter. And I got that a lot through football, because when I performed well on the field, like I remember you talking about a bodybuilding show that you won. It had 30,000 people, and you had the trophy up there, and that moment filled you. Whenever I would hear the roar of a crowd, whenever I'd hear the applause, it filled me. And I made the mistake as a young man who had, you know, empty places inside of him, you know, from the loss of my brother, the size of Texas. I made the mistake of confusing that adoration and applause for love. So I would go out and chase that adoration. I'd go out and chase that applause, because that meant I was loved, people liked me. And I didn't know it was the golden handcuffs of fame. And there came a time in the American Gladiator journey when we were at the pinnacle of our success. You know, we had just sold out Madison Square Garden. There was a tour. We had toys. We had so many things. Like I said, my own action figure. Oh my gosh. And after that Madison Square Garden, I remember I went out and partied like a rock star, because it wasn't because I was depressed. It wasn't because I felt that sadness. It was because, like, if it's good, it can get better.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning. This was like season 3 of Gladiators on the tour, Madison Square Garden. I woke up the next morning, and I was lying on the floor, and I had spit dribbling out of my mouth. I was still high out of my mind, and I was weeping. Now, I hadn't cried since I was, you know, like 5 years old. I hadn't cried since I was a little kid. I didn't cry when my brother died in my arms when he was electrocuted, because men didn't cry. Men didn't feel things. You know, you had that stiff upper lip. And when I found myself weeping, and I was like, oh my God, I said, I have everything in my life, more than I ever thought I would have. You know, I'm a kid from, you know, Santa Ana, down here in Orange County, and you know, no one ever got out. was on TV, but it just had everything, and it just didn't feel like anything, and that scared me. I was 25 years old, and that's when I kind of had to raise my hand and say, look, I need some help. I got to figure this out, or I don't know what's going to happen to me. So that's when I, on the behest of my acting coach, Larry Moss at that time, was everyone should do therapy. Everyone should do therapy. I'm like, sitting here with you is like therapy. But so I went and saw, a counselor, a therapist, and I just shared with her, and I picked a woman because I wasn't going to cry in front of a man. I couldn't be emotional in front of another dude. I just know. So I picked a woman. I went in and I shared all my secrets, all my shame, for a few weeks, and I felt some of that that inner pang that you have, inside. I felt some of that dissipate, and that was kind of the journey to becoming a whole and human being. It took a lot of work, and I still work on it daily. I'm still finding things, the reasons to go forward, the reasons to get better, the reasons to live, and it changes. But
did she ever give you an idea why you were crying? Did she ever pull that out?
Well, I never grieved my brother. I never grieved for my brother.
That was your release.
Yeah, it was a release. It was over a year and a half period of time.
So you were just holding it in.
No, it wasn't. I didn't know how to process it. So a lot of times when something happens when you're, 8 years old, or I'm sorry, I was 10 years old, you don't know how to process. And my dad was a Marine. We never had one conversation about it. Never like, you lost your brother, son. It's going to be hard. You're going to be through grief. I love you. We never one conversation. He was so busy dealing with his own grief. And he's a man, who never spoke about his grief, who never raised his hand, a man who never got help. And he ended up dying at 59 years old of opioid overdose.
I'm sorry.
Accidental. So I can see, if you don't have the ability to put words and emotions and be vulnerable and work on things, I can see a path for a man who ends up like my father. The most charismatic guy you ever meet, but didn't know how to deal with his pain, didn't know how to talk. So he, drinking, drugs, cocaine, opioids, and, he met his end. You asked me a question. I'm a legendary talker, but you asked me a question. What was that question? Do either of us remember?
Well, how you got the audition?
Yeah, how you got the character role.
Yeah, how'd you get that role? I mean, it was the open call, you went, and was it between you and somebody else?
No, what you actually asked me, did she figure out why you were weeping?
Oh, that question. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And so, I didn't grieve my brother, and I remember there was a movie, an older movie. I love movies called Ordinary People. Oscar
winning.
It's
a great movie. Yeah,
it's a fantastic movie, right?
I love that.
So it was Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland, Timothy Hutton. I think he won the Oscar for it, and it was about a family. But he had lost his brother, the main character. And his brother, like my brother, was the older brother, the stronger brother, the faster brother, the better looking brother, the brother who got into the accident and died. And Conrad, the character in the movie, always felt guilty. He felt like he should have been the one who lived. And that's how I felt about my brother. And for me, that survivor's guilt, it really pushed me to be seen, because I was living for two. I was living for him, and to prove that I had the right and I deserved to live, if that makes sense. But inside, I was really this scared little kid, because at 10 years old, I figured, if that can happen to my brother,
you're vulnerable, yeah.
If that could happen to the stronger one, the faster one, the better one, what the hell's going to happen to me? And it wasn't a conscious thought, because I'm 10 years old. But that's when I started to get into the muscle and the size. And I, got big, I got huge, and I ended up building this meat suit. That protected me from the world, so I didn't feel anything. I didn't have to feel anything. Everything, I had this layer. It's like some people with obesity, they have trauma. Not all, but some people with obesity, they have trauma. And this is the protection against.
So your body was like your armor.
It was my armor. It was all to protect that little kid inside.
I got to tell you something. You had a very, very proportionate body. I mean, the shape of your muscles, the contour, the narrow waist.
You want to get a room?
No, but,
Do you want to get a room?
no, but being a bodybuilder.
I'm at a hotel down the street, Mike.
No, but being a bodybuilder, I can appreciate like art. And I think of when someone's, whether man or woman, develops their body, it's a piece of art that comes alive. And that's the thing about it was not only were you like that alpha warrior, but you had the body that went with it, and you had that you had the it factor. That maybe you didn't realize till later. But when you would walk in a room, seriously, everybody like, oh my God, he was so great. Dan looks amazing. Oh, I watched him on the show. Did you see him tear that guy apart? They were so proud of you that maybe you didn't hear it because they just kept it in. But you were such a motivation for other people. I saw them putting on more weight, training harder, just for you being in the room, right?
Yeah, it never felt that way. I would look at guys like you who had tremendous physique, guys like Rick Valente, guys like Arnold, and I never felt quite good enough. I'm my own worst critic in my mind, but it's not a negative voice like, you're a terrible human being, you suck, It's just that like, oh, look at that fat there. Oh, look at this here. And that's a voice that I've had to learn, to make peace with. And as quickly as that voice comes out, besides using it for the motivation to continue to get up and train, I've had to make peace with it, to find, happiness and to find, being enough. Because, as we know, comparison is a thief of joy. And we never compare ourselves to someone below us. We always compare ourselves to someone better than us,
Yeah.
I go, look at Big Mike O'Hearn. I go, oh God, I should be working out. You know what I mean? I look at success in finance. I look at Sly. God, look at his career. My career sucks. It's really the thief of joy. And I have to remind myself, I'm on my own path. I'm on my own journey. This is where my value is. So externally, people may, look and say, oh, he's a pretty, he's an accomplished guy. One of my friend's daughters said this to me. She said, like, oh, God, you're the most accomplished guy I know. I'm glad to know you. And I'm like, right? You understand? You're talking to me?
I know exactly what you're talking about, bro.
Right? I was on TV. I wrote a couple books. I've, produced shows. And, that's accomplished. But, look at this person. That's a tough thing, and I feel like in the last few years, now that I'm 60, I'm pretty clear, on who I am and what I want to do and what I want to put out into the world. And I think as you age, I think there's two ways to look at life as you age, two main ways. And one is you want to be cognizant that death is coming. Not in a cynical way, but in a realistic way. Or the other way, I think a lot of people, I don't want to talk about death. I don't want to know. For me, I want to know, and I want to be aware that it's coming. So that makes me, like in the Buddhist sense, be very, very mindful and enjoy the time I have left. Because I know, eventually we all fall off that cliff, which is death, wherever happens, wherever we go. But I choose to be, very mindful and aware and try to really enjoy my life. And not so much chasing happiness, but chasing fulfillment. And I think the difference is happiness is quick and short, right? But there's fulfillment is something that fills you up, I think, deeper inside. And
well, when you talked about how hard you worked to become this incredible force on that show,
it didn't feel like work.
You were just having fun out there, huh?
No, it didn't feel like work, a young guy in Hollywood. I had a job. Someone was paying me to be on TV. That's not work, man. That is living the dream.
But I got to tell you something. So I was watching it one time when you were at your peak in one of the episodes with a bunch of the bodybuilders. I'm like, damn, he can go. Because I got to tell you something. Arnold is far from being an athlete. So he may look magnificent, but they're all show no go. You would tear these people apart, do these leaps, these falls. You had this athletic ability that was so obvious that you were like dominating your competitors because you had not only the physique, but man, you would go to action. When they let you go, it was like a horse being released in a race. That stallion, because bam, because that's what a lot of we would say. Damn, that's some fucking athlete. Holy shit! You see when he took that guy down, just tearing him off the cargo there. So you were just hauling ass. So you probably were just having fun, right?
Just having fun. Just having fun, and the fun changes. As your body changes, the fun changes. But
and that's why I want to get to this.
Yeah, it's always
next book, F Dying. Okay, so now, when this happened, what was in your mind? Did you feel like...
So F Dying is the book I wrote about, having a heart attack and almost dying. It was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, December. I was training in the gym. I was a CrossFit gym. And I felt chest pain. And it was interesting because my knowledge of that time of heart attacks and heart incidents were what I saw on TV. Oh, my, the Albert Finney Network. Oh, you're shaking, you hit the ground and you're flopping and then you're out, It's so dramatized. And when you're in great shape, you don't even think of that. It's not even the realm of possibility. So when I got the chest pain, it was just minor at first. And then as I continued to train, it got worse and worse. But it never got to that point where I was, laying on the ground. I was playing pickleball lately, big, tough sport. and a guy a couple courts over had a heart attack, and he was down. And they were doing CPR, and he had stopped breathing, and they came, and it wasn't like that. It was just chest pain. I go to the hospital, and the pain is getting worse and worse. Felt like someone was sticking a screwdriver in my chest. Then I noticed I was starting to shake my left arm. And then only when I started to shake my left arm did it kind of, left arm. Numbness in the left arm is a classic sign, chest pain. Right. And I went in, and they did the test. There's a hormone your body secretes an enzyme when you're having a cardiovascular event. I tripotent, I can't remember the name of it. But they said, you have this, your EKG, you're having a heart attack. It's been 3 hours. We need to get you in surgery. And, I'm always kind of like fun, Even in this situation, I try to make light of it. I say, well, doc, am I going to make it? I didn't quite say it with that voice. I said, hey, am I going to make it? And he, hoping and looking for some reassurance. And he says to me, you've been having chest pain for this long. I don't know how much damage you have. He says, we'll do our best. And he walks out of the room.
Oh, shit. Wow.
And in that moment, Mike, just everything changed. In a moment, everything that I thought was important. The house in Mulholland, the German cars in the driveway, the plaques on my wall, all that stuff became insignificant. I didn't care about that shit. All I wanted is I just wanted the people in my life that I loved, I wanted them close to me. And I wanted them to know that I loved them. That's all that mattered. And it was really a shift of priorities. Before, my life was always about how can I buy a third house? How can I do this? How can I do that? Those are my priorities. It was all material things to show people like, hey, I'm successful, and it just didn't become as important. And so who's
the first person you called?
My sister.
And why your sister?
She's probably the person I'm closest to in my life. I'm sorry. I actually had called my partner at that time, the woman I was with, and then I called my sister. I called her because I lived with her, shared a home, and then I called my sister. My sister's probably the closest person in my life. I've never had a lot of female friends because it was hard to be friends with female because of the idea of sex and sexuality and especially an attractive woman. I'd always had male friends. I've been very friendly, but to have, and my sister was that person. where it felt safe, and who knew me so well. And then I reached out to my son. And my partner at that time, she called all my close friends. And it was nice to hear everyone's voice and to, get the support. The next day in the hospital, I just made a kind of a pledge that I wanted to rebuild my life.
But did you have immediate surgery, or you had
Yeah. So they go and they put you in the cath lab, right? They go in there, they put a camera up.
Oh, the scope.
Yeah, what's in your groin back then.
Oh,
They
right,
put up the
to see
groin,
the
they see
damage.
the damage. Yeah.
And how bad was it?
You know what? The damage, it was there's two main types of heart attacks. One is a heart attack where we all know where your arteries are clogged, right? Over time they clog. The little pieces of plaque go into the endothelium. They start to burrow themselves in, and they start to eventually thicken the wall, and it clogs, and the blood doesn't go to your heart. The heart attack I didn't know of is that sometimes that your lining of your arteries, the endothelium, it actually tears.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, I didn't know this either. So it actually tears a little bit, and then your body's own clotting process sends things there to stop the tear, and the clotting factors end up blocking your artery. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So-
your mechanism, yeah.
Yeah, the mechanism, thrombosis, I think it's called, where all these little things start going there. Oh no, we have a tear in the wall, and they go and they send too
Like little
many.
Pac-Man trying to
Yeah,
fix it,
they send too many, and it causes the.
So it was one article, ventricle, right?
It wasn't the Widowmaker. So they went in, they put a stent in, and the weirdest thing is you're awake. Because it's not open heart surgery. You're awake, and I'm looking on the screen, and I can see him, this cord, and putting the stent, and he shows me, see this thing here? You can see where the artery wall is broken, and you see him put the stent in. It's
so the stent was used through where the scope went.
Yeah, that goes in through your groin. Wow. They push it all the way up there. It's funny. I remember
an alien creature going up your arm or your groin, right?
Well, yeah, but it's funny was, and I remember there's always humor in all these things. I remember my doctor was like, because they said it wasn't going to be that long. They came out and told my partner that it wasn't going to be that long, and it took a lot longer. And she got really, really worried. And she told me this after. But I guess I have some of the biggest arteries he's ever seen, so they couldn't put a typical chest stent in. They had to go to a different department and find a leg one. So I walked out. Hey, I got big arteries, babe.
We have an athlete's heart, right?
Which is bad now.
Yeah, right. It's oversized and
I go to my cardiologist, a great guy, Dr. Bruce Samuels, here in Beverly Hills, where we are now, in this very posh studio you have. And I go to him the other day, and he said the aortic nerve or aortic root has gotten enlarged since the last time. I said, that's good. And he's like, no, that's not good. I'm like, no, big artery, not good. He's like, no. Yeah. And he's like, so I take probably about 80 milligrams of test a week. No, I'm sorry, about 50 a week.
It has no complications.
No, so I take probably about 80 a week. I'm trying to remember now. So about 80
And
milligrams.
are you taking the bare aspirin, the baby aspirin?
No, I have to. So a couple things I have to do. One is I have to take a blood thinner. So I had back surgery. I had a reconstructive back surgery maybe 5 or 6 years.
Was that
6 years ago.
Playing football or
football, gladiators, jiu-jitsu,
yeah.
boxing, from life, from living a good life, an active life. And I had a reconstructive back surgery where they did a 3-level.
Oh, so they went through the abdominal.
They go to the abdominal. If it's L5S1, a lot of times they go through the stomach because the nerve's in the back. So they open you up here in the front side, and they did 3 levels for me, L5S1 and the 2 above it. And I ended up getting 3 blood clots, C, whatever they're called, 3 blood clots in my calf, and 2 pulmonary embolisms from the surgery, which is common because when you have a surgery like shoulder, hip, especially lower,
right,
your body produces this enzyme that causes your blood to clot. I don't know the exact science behind it, but I got 3 of them there and 2 pulmonary embolisms. Because of that, I have to take a blood thinner. What'd you ask me?
No, but I understand that because I was just curious. Is there something that you now have to take the rest of your life as the blood thinners and all this?
So I made an agreement with my oncologist, hematologist, same person. She said, if you're going to continue to take any testosterone, no matter if it's 50 milligrams a week, whatever you're going to do, she said, because it thickens your blood,
Yes.
right, and increases your hematocrit. Thicken your blood, meaning that increases the amount of red blood cells. I want you to continue to take this blood thinner. And there's two types of blood thinner. There's it's a different one than they give like Coumadin with someone who's had heart issues. So for some reason, she gave me the one because of the DVTs, the blood clots, the one that's fitter. So I take that, and I take a light statin. Now, I know statin use is very, very controversial, right? But I think the one segment of the population that is proven to help is people who've had a cardiovascular incident in the past. So I'm in that category, so I do take that. And then, I do other peptides and, other anti-aging. I started...
Hey, you look great, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just I wish I looked like you. See, there it is. I do. I look okay, you look great, and I'm envious.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Look, you went through a lot. You had a heart attack. You had the back issue. It kind of complicate things, but you're still maintaining great balanced physique.
Yeah,
You know, so again, it's,
I got a 13-year-old at home, a 13-year-old stepson, right? So he's been with me since he was 5, so 5 or 6. So I got to keep up with him.
Yeah, you go.
My son's...
That's your inspiration.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And he's such a good kid. My other son, he's old. He doesn't need me that way anymore.
Yeah.
But, what's nice is when you have a young man or a young woman around the house, it's almost like, your own science project in the sense of, motivational, experiential, how to try to take everything you've learned and raise a good human being.
That's beautiful. How old's your son?
37. Tyler. Tyler is in Clarkey. He's in Portugal.
Is he very athletic like you?
He's physically fit. Sports wasn't his thing. He's an entrepreneur. He's a lawyer, and he's very, very physically fit.
Oh, that's great.
Just sports wasn't his thing. Like football. He just didn't like getting there and banging people around like
Better
I did.
off with the concussions and all the crap these athletes are going through. Kids are dying in the field in high school football games.
Yeah, I saw that 3 this last week. Yeah, it's crazy.
Terrible.
It's crazy.
But I got to tell you something. So I have brought on some of the top experts in health and wellness, and I have recently had a cardiologist from Beverly Hills, and he suggests that people use red yeast rice extract instead of the statin.
Reggie?
Red yeast.
They said Reggie's rice in his stack.
New York accent.
I said, where do we get that? With some gumbo
Reggie.
and some shrimp. Some Reggie rice.
Red yeast rice extract.
Say it again 3 times fast. Reggie's.
And no, but it's these capsules that have this reddish powder. But what it does naturally is reduces the level of cholesterol and plaque buildup. And so he said you should take, like 6 capsules a day, 2-3 times a day. Well, I said to him, I've been doing that for about the past 10 years.
Oh, nice.
And my cholesterol level, the buildup, has reduced 30%. He goes, yes.
So your cholesterol buildup or your cholesterol
Well,
numbers?
I had buildup at a certain percentage. You know how they rate you, how much percentage of plaque you have in your arteries?
Okay, so
certain
you
areas.
went and did that
So-
scan.
So when I did the test...
You got your calcium score is what you're saying.
everything.
Okay.
They said they've never seen a reversal of that much 30% reduction of
that's so interesting.
calcification.
So are there studies or is it anecdotal from
Oh,
him?
no, there's studies.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, the doctor is Dr. Rand McClain that first told me about it many years ago. He works with Michael Hearn and many other bodybuilders. He said, Mike, just try it. You don't have the same side effects as the statins. It comes from a natural source. Take 2 capsules 3 times a day, and my cholesterol level is at a very low, healthy level. I have good cholesterol, it was very high because I do the intense training, but I really maintain my health. But everything I take is according to my blood work. How much vitamin D3, calcium, magnesium, DHEA is all based upon my blood. So one of the important elements I found was being able to use natural sources of supplementation than drugs, because then you still have the statins,
Side
the heart
effects.
and the liver,
The side
the
effects,
kidneys,
yeah,
and other
right.
things. So I've maneuvered, although I don't have a heart condition or even a threat to needing a stent, but they said they saw a significant reduction in the cholesterol and calcification.
Yeah, well, for me, from my number, I would be more concerned about the calcification than the cholesterol, right?
So the calcification was what I was concerned about because the level wasn't that high. It was actually very kind of normal, almost low. But I think you should look into it. I'll send you information on it.
Yeah, please do.
It's incredible because you will not have the adverse effects that statins give you.
Yeah, I take such a minimal dose. I don't feel anything. At first, I was very resistant, and I wanted to get off of them, but I didn't really feel any effects from the Lipitor. I take half the minimum recommended dose. So meaning, he said, this is the least amount you can take. I broke those in half and took those, and we made an agreement. I said, as long as my numbers are great, and for someone who's had a heart incident, they like your cholesterol down to 50 now.
Oh, wow.
And your triglycerides down to like 50. So it's a different measuring stick than someone who hasn't had a heart incident. And also, what I always make sure to do too is I take another test which tests the particle size of your cholesterol, your LDL. So what I didn't understand, without getting too technical, was that someone can have the same cholesterol number. Let's say the LDL number, say it's 150, but that 150 could be made up of 4,000 particles, or it could be made up of 100 particles. And the idea is you want the flaky, smaller particles so they can't get into the wall of your endothelium, versus if you get the small, tiny sand ones who get in there and they build up, and that's how they start to clog your arteries. But I'm not a big cholesterol number guy. I'm a big calcium score guy, and every 2 years he goes and he puts the scope in, and
that's
just
the
to
best
make sure.
thing to do.
Yeah.
But also too, there's betaine, B-E-T-A-I-N-E, that you can take. It actually lowers your homocysteine level, because especially if you're a bodybuilder, you eat a lot of high protein, especially like a lot of red meat, your homocysteine rises. And it's a supplement that you just take twice a day, and it'll bring down your homocysteine level, because that also can create the inflammation in your body too. But I think there's ways of doing things where people, like yourself, you must follow what the doctor says, but there's ways to utilize herbs and supplements that can help you maintain a healthy life, a quality life. But again,
I hadn't seen a doctor for 20 years besides surgeries. I blew up my knee, I did this. I had not seen a doctor. I didn't believe in going to doctors until I had the heart attack. And then now I'm like, yes, doctor, no doctor. but still, look, I'm more on the progressive side. I take a few therapeutic peptides. I've been taking a light dose of metformin at night as part of an anti-aging protocol. I do I have the cold plunge ice bath at the side of my house. I do my ice bath. So I'm really on a longevity bent. There's a lot of things I love in my life.
Yeah,
there's a
you
lot
have
of
reason
things
to
I
live
love.
a long life,
and not only I don't only want lifespan, I want health span. Yeah, I listen to Dr. Peter Attia.
Of course, I hear him. Uberman, all of those guys.
Yeah. Peter Attia, live well.
Gary Brecka,
all these guys. So it's lifespan and health span. Those things go they go hand in hand for me. I want to be able to run around.
100%. There's a gentleman. He's a formulator, and
he's a what?
He's a formulator.
A formulator. Got it.
For all types of supplements, and his name is Elmerick Delsick. He used to be a bodybuilder years ago, competitive bodybuilder. Well, he has these peptides that he gave to me that I've been using, and I gotta tell you something. Just tablets you take, a couple times a day, morning and night before you go to bed. I feel so vibrant.
Well, you look great.
And the skin and everything, and
you look great.
Feels great. So he created a formula for pets.
Oh.
I have 2 pit bulls, and I put them on for almost 4 months now. Oh my God, the dogs are not scratching, they're not licking anything. Their hair looks great, their body looks leaner. I'll get it for you.
Yeah, get it. I love it.
I'm going to tell you something. Guarantee. Just take it.
Mike, those are all things I want. You talk about hair. I could always use some more hair. I could always use leanness. I could always use, feeling great.
Okay, so here's the other thing.
I thought you were just saying that because of my hair.
So he's a formulator. This is what he did. He created a stem cell cream for the skin that you put on the skin, and helps fade, hydrates skin, and stimulates collagen production. I've been using it. I've been watching the videos, and I see my skin looking even better and a glow. Then he gave me this shampoo and conditioner. It stimulates the hair follicles, and it helps stimulate fullness in the hair. And it's so funny. It's like when I get up in the morning, my hair's sticking up like when I was a kid.
Oh,
and when I went to the guy to cut my hair,
is that the only thing sticking up?
No, the peptides help that way, But the hair, it's like I'm like like when you're a kid, you had a.
I know exactly.
Right?
All that new hair, all that new young
strong.
hair.
So, I'm having him mass produce. He's going to sell it, but I'm going to give it to you. I guarantee, after just a few weeks, you're going to go, Mike, I can't believe it. The hair is not flyaway. It's thicker, the follicles, and it feels great because all this is stem cell. They're using stem cells.
It's funny. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home and talk to my Kim, my partner, and I said, "What'd you know?" Well, he told me I had bad skin. He told me I was losing my hair, and he's trying to give me all these supplements.
No, I'm just sharing what I'm doing.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, man, you look great.
I'm joking with you, man.
But I like to share because I tell everybody, give me the product for 90 days. If I don't see a result, I'm going to say straight on my show, I saw nothing. Now, I had this Dr. Hahari. He's a Sikh. He has this wellness universe healing center in Beverly Hills. He said, Mike, I want you to come in and try this red light bed. I read the book that Dr. Rothschild wrote, who actually engineered this unique bed. I would tell you something. It reduces inflammation in your body, reduces any inflammation in your organs, and it stimulates the collagen production, stimulates the hair and everything. I got to tell you something. I get out of the bed and I feel like $1 million. It's a type of red light bed. Anytime you want to go, you just try it. You can feel amazing. It relaxes you, but it's healing light. So it's like a sunbed that's good for you. The bulbs don't burn you. You can open your eyes and
no, it's the red ultra. It's a red.
Right.
Red.
And
yeah.
he said to me, Mike, try opening your mouth because I said, I had a little bit of sore throat. So I went in the bed twice. Sore throat was gone. I didn't need a Z-Pack. I needed a gargle. He said, don't do anything. Just do the red light, but open your mouth while you're in there. And it's only 12 minutes. I got to tell you something. The soreness went away.
The sores went away?
The soreness. Because when you're...
Interesting.
You're right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I'm utilizing the latest technology in supplementation to extend my life, but also have a more healthy, fruitful life because I'm noticing that my body's responding to it. Because, years ago, bodybuilders used the gear and all that other stuff. I'm using all these wonderful natural supplements to help enhance the quality of my skin, reduce inflammation. And I tell you something, it's game-changing. And that's why I want to share it with you, get you some product to try out because you're going to love it. And I pass it on my show. I want people to know that there's alternative ways of being healthy and not relying on drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
So now what are you traveling and motivational speaking? What's the next phase in your life?
Creating, selling, producing Muscles and Mayhem for Netflix, it really stimulated that creative bug for me. To put good material, to find good stories, to put those things out into the world, to put my shoulder behind it. So I've got about 3 or 4 different projects, and it's interesting what I'm attracted to as far as material. It's usually about strong men, who are broken and have to have some type of journey to come back. And a lot of times the men aren't, not that they're bad men, but when I say a broken man, they become broken. They think life is one way. There's a really fascinating story about this DEA agent, who at a young age, growing up in Chicago where his dad was a cop, he lost his best friend, football player buddy, to drugs in Chicago. And he was just said, Dad, you're a cop. Why can't you stop this? His dad takes him out on the streets and said, look at this. I can't, all these junkies and all these people, it's we're not doing anything. I can put all these people out here, but it's not going to stop the flow of drugs. So this guy says, you know what? I'm going to become a DEA agent. I'm going to cut this snake off at its head. I'm going to go fight this war on drugs. And he was a football player, strong guy, invincible. He goes and he joins the FAST team, which is the DEA's SWAT team that goes into international areas, and they fight the war on drugs. It's the cool shit you see, the guns and all that stuff.
Wow.
And he joins us. He's one of the first guys in line. He goes on a mission in Afghanistan. They go into a market, a bazaar. This is 2000-ish. And as soon as they go into this bazaar where they're looking for poppy seeds, over the loudspeakers in Afghanistan, the infidels have invaded our country. And bullets just from rooftop and different angles, bam, 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 bam. He's the guy who lays suppressive fire. So everybody else gets back on the helicopters. He's the last guy. He's running towards the helicopter. Bullet, choom, right through the skull. He drops to the ground. They think he's dead. They pull him on the copter. They take off his skull. They operate on him. 9 hours later, take out 30% of his frontal lobe, and when he comes to out of his coma a few weeks later, Walter Reed, he's blind.
Oh, wow.
And it's his story about a man who felt like he was bulletproof. It's a story about a man who went and did something he believed in. His identity was tied up in being a DEA agent and fighting for his friend and fighting this war on drugs. And now he has to survive and live in this world and figure out his purpose and try to come out the other side with blindness, with missing part of his brain, with PTSD. His fiance at the time he was shot felt so bad, felt bad and wanted to know he would never be alone, that she married him in Walter Reed Hospital 6 weeks after. It's an incredible, I have the picture. He's in a wheelchair.
What a wild story.
He's got eyes, like all black and blue eyes. He's got this scar across his head, and they got married because she didn't want him to ever feel alone. So it's an incredible love story. But I met this guy when we were filming the docuseries. My partner and I, my producing partner, we flew to the Pittsburgh Masters contest because one of the Gladiators, Steve Henenberry Tower, was competing in the Masters for trying to get his pro card. So we flew there and we were filming Steve, and that's when I first met Joe Piersante. He came on stage, and it was so strange because he came on stage and someone was walking him on stage, holding his hand. I go, that's weird. And I'm in the audience filming, we're watching this, and he hits his first pose, and everyone is just like, yeah. And then people are like, that's an American hero. And I'm like, what? Who? This is the guy you should be doing a documentary on. And I'm like, huh? So I got to know Joe. We've become good friends over the last few years, and he's told me his story, and I've got to know him as a man. And he ended up winning that show, and he became the first pro-blind bodybuilder, and he's also
Incredible.
The one and only DEA agent ever to win the Medal of Courage, or be awarded the Medal of Courage by the President of the United States. So he's this fantastic dude, but his journey is about a guy who never asked for help, but in order to survive, he has to learn to ask for help. And here's the kicker that made me realize I had to tell his story. His nickname on the FAST DEA unit was Nitro.
Well, it's meant to be, brother.
Yeah, and one of my Zoom calls with him, his partner, person that was there with him, showed me his old flak jacket and Sharpie on the back of it, Nitro, and that just happened. I said, you know what? I'm going to tell your story. I'm going to figure that out. So
you're going to start filming that? Or?
No, writing the script now. We got the rights, so we're writing the script right now. So that's one story. So there's a couple.
Keep in touch with me. I might have some people who'd be interested.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so there's a couple stories like that I'm working on. There's a TV series I'm working on. There's another documentary I'm working on. So I just want to tell great stories. With the time I have left, however I can.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on and sharing your story, and I want you to come back and tell us how things are going, and I want to hear more about this documentary that you're going to be working on.
No, it's a feature film.
It's going to be
scripted.
Film?
It's going to be scripted. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Joe Piersante. Yeah, it's good. It'll be exciting.
That'd be great. Well, thank you, brother.
I know. Thank you. It's look, you're. What I like, many things I like about you. You a testament to what you preach, and I can always just look at somebody and see who they are and what they are. by just looking at them, and that's why it was important for me to come and sit down here and, break bread, so to speak. This is a new breaking bread, right?
Nah, we'll go to dinner. We'll have a good time. Bring Sebastian, who you just met.
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Good. I'm going to tell you something. He's a filmmaker. He knows the right people. He'd probably dig this story.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I'd like to bring good people together because when you're done with the script, your permission, or
of course,
you send it to him. If he likes it,
it all works out.
It's sort of way. Wouldn't it be good to have someone that you trust and will be safe with your story?
With Joe's story.
With Joe's
story.
I'm
the guardian. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's trust, and that's the way the world works, and that's why I like to work. So I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. This is Mike Torsha thanking you for watching Live Well and Thrive. And if you have people you care about,
and it's Dan.
Please share this episode. This is a great episode. You're going to laugh your ass off. But most of all, please subscribe because we need your support, and share this. Share with your friends and your loved ones. And thank you for watching.